Formula One is the highest class of international single-seater auto racing. It is sanctioned by the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, or FIA. The formula in its name refers to a set of rules that all participants' cars must meet. The story of Formula One officially began after the end of World War II. Before the war, Grand Prix motor racing was popular in Europe, but the conflict brought everything to a halt. When peace returned, the world was ready for excitement and innovation. People wanted to see speed and skill once again. The idea for a new world championship was born from this desire to rebuild and reconnect the world through sport. The official birth of the Formula One World Championship was in 1950. The FIA decided to standardize the rules for the top level of racing. This created a clear path for constructors and drivers to compete on a global stage. The very first World Championship race was held at Silverstone in the United Kingdom. It was a historic day, held on May 13, 1950. The event was a grand affair, even attended by King George VI. It marked the beginning of a new chapter for motorsport. The engines roared back to life, signaling a new era of speed, competition and technological advancement that would capture the imagination of millions for decades. The name Formula One itself suggested a premier category of racing. It was the top formula, the pinnacle of motorsport engineering and driving talent. The initial regulations were based on pre-war rules, allowing for cars with 1.5-litre supercharged engines or 4.5-litre naturally aspirated engines. This flexibility allowed many existing manufacturers to participate without having to design entirely new cars from scratch. Teams like Alfa Romeo, Ferrari and Maserati, which had roots in pre-war racing, were ready to take on the challenge. The stage was set for a battle of titans, both human and machine, on the racing circuits of Europe. The allure of Formula One was its combination of human bravery and mechanical genius. Drivers were seen as modern-day gladiators risking their lives for glory. The cars were powerful, raw, and often unpredictable. Each race was a test of endurance, strategy, and sheer courage. The early races were held on famous circuits like Monaco, Monza, and Spa-Francorchamps. These tracks were long, fast, and dangerous, demanding immense respect from those who dared to race on them. This cocktail of risk and reward laid the foundation for the dramatic and compelling sport that Formula One would become. The early years of Formula One were dominated by Italian manufacturers. Alfa Romeo, with its powerful pre-war Alfetta cars, was the team to beat in the inaugural 1950 season. Their driver, Giuseppe Nino Farina, became the very first Formula One world champion. He was an aggressive and determined driver who battled his own teammates for the title. However, another name quickly rose to prominence: Juan Manuel Fangio. The Argentine driver is widely regarded as one of the greatest of all time. He possessed a unique blend of speed, intelligence, and mechanical sympathy, allowing him to get the most out of his cars while preserving them for the long races. Juan Manuel Fangio's incredible talent saw him win 5 world championships in the 1950s with 4 different teams: Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, Mercedes-Benz, and Maserati. His ability to switch teams and still win demonstrated his remarkable adaptability. He set a record for championships that would stand for nearly half a century. Fangio was the benchmark, the driver all others measured themselves against. His duels with other great drivers of the era, like Alberto Ascari, were legendary. Ascari, driving for Ferrari, secured back-to-back championships in 1952 and 1953, showcasing the rising power of another iconic Italian team. Speaking of Ferrari, no team is more synonymous with Formula One. Founded by Enzo Ferrari, the team from Maranello has competed in every single season of the World Championship since its inception. The famous prancing horse logo became a symbol of passion, speed, and Italian pride. While other teams came and went, Ferrari remained a constant, a pillar of the sport. Their early successes with drivers like Ascari established them as a top contender. The fierce rivalry between Ferrari and other teams like Maserati defined the first decade of the sport, creating compelling storylines that drew in more and more fans. The 1950s also saw the arrival of British teams known as the Garagistas. Small independent constructors like Cooper, Lotus and BRM began to challenge the established Italian giants. They brought new ideas and innovative engineering concepts to the sport, The most significant of these was the placement of the engine. While the Italian teams placed their engines in the front of the car, the British teams started experimenting with rear-engine designs. This revolutionary change, pioneered by Cooper, would drastically alter the handling and performance of Formula One cars and set the stage for a British takeover of the sport in the decade to come. The 1960s and 70s marked a period of dramatic technological transformation in Formula One. The rear-engine revolution, started by Cooper at the end of the 1950s, became the standard design for all teams. This shift lowered the car's center of gravity and improved its handling, making the cars faster through corners. Colin Chapman, the brilliant mind behind Team Lotus, took this a step further. He introduced the monocoque chassis in 1962 with the Lotus 25. This design, inspired by the aviation industry, made the car lighter and much more rigid than the traditional space frame chassis. It was a huge leap forward in car construction and gave Lotus a significant competitive advantage. Another major innovation was the increasing use of aerodynamics. Teams began to experiment with wings to create downforce. This invisible force pushed the car onto the track, allowing it to travel through corners at much higher speeds. At first, the wings were simple, mounted high above the car on tall struts. However, these early designs were often fragile and led to some spectacular accidents. The FIA eventually stepped in to regulate the size and placement of wings, but the aerodynamic genie was out of the bottle. From that point on, the quest for more downforce would become a central battleground in the Formula One technology race. The 1970s also brought the rise of sponsorship. Previously, cars were painted in national racing colours, such as British Racing Green or Italian Red. Colin Chapman changed this when he signed a major deal with Gold Leaf Tobacco. The Lotus cars were painted in the sponsor's red, white and gold livery. This opened the floodgates for commercial sponsorship, which provided teams with the funding needed for research and development. This influx of cash accelerated the pace of technological innovation. It also transformed the look of the sport, turning the cars into colourful, high-speed billboards and contributing to its growing commercial appeal. This era was also defined by legendary drivers who mastered these increasingly complex machines. Drivers like Jim Clark, Graham Hill and Jackie Stewart dominated the 1960s. Clark, in particular, is often remembered for his sublime car control and natural talent. The 1970s saw a new generation of heroes, including the charismatic James Hunt and the methodical Niki Lauda. Their famous rivalry in the 1976 season, dramatized in the film Rush, captured the imagination of the public. These drivers were not just athletes, they were international celebrities who brought glamour and drama to the rapidly evolving world of Formula One. For much of its history, Formula One was honestly an incredibly dangerous sport. The pursuit of speed often came at the cost of safety. The tracks were lined with trees, buildings, and these unprotected barriers, making every lap a risky endeavour. The cars themselves offered little protection to the drivers. Fuel tanks were often placed all around the driver, and, well, fires were a common and terrifying occurrence after a crash. Seatbelts weren't even mandatory until 1972, and, believe it or not, many drivers in the early years thought it was actually safer to be thrown clear from a wreck than to be trapped inside it. The list of drivers who lost their lives was tragically long, and the sport lived with this constant shadow of death. The turning point for safety in Formula One came in the late 1960s and early 70s, largely thanks to the efforts of driver Jackie Stewart. After witnessing far too many of his friends and competitors die in horrific accidents, Stewart began a personal crusade to improve safety standards. He campaigned for better track design with runoff areas, improved barriers, and faster medical response teams. Stewart also pushed for improvements in car construction and mandatory safety equipment for drivers, such as full-face helmets and fire-resistant overalls. Initially, his calls for change were met with resistance from some track owners and officials who saw it as an unnecessary expense or a dilution of the sport's challenge. Despite the resistance, Stewart's advocacy began to make a real difference. His influence, combined with several high-profile tragedies, forced the sport to confront its safety problem. The 1970s saw the introduction of many new safety features, Survival cells, stronger chassis structures designed to protect the driver in an impact became a key area of development. On-site medical centers and traveling medical teams led by Professor Sid Watkins became a standard fixture at every race. These changes slowly began to reduce the number of fatalities, but the sport still had a long way to go to protect its competitors adequately. The darkest weekend in modern Formula One history occurred in 1994 at the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola. The deaths of rookie driver Roland Ratzenberger during qualifying and three-time world champion Ayrton Senna during the race sent shockwaves through the entire world. These tragedies served as a final brutal wake-up call. In the aftermath, the FIA, under the leadership of Max Mosley, implemented a raft of radical safety changes. Cars were redesigned to be slower and safer. Circuits were modified with more chicanes and larger runoff areas, and crash testing standards became far more rigorous. This marked the beginning of the modern era of safety in Formula One, transforming it into a sport where drivers could survive even massive accidents. The transformation of Formula One from a largely European-centric sport into a global spectacle really began in the 1980s. This was largely driven by two key factors: the rise of television broadcasts and the commercial leadership of Bernie Ecclestone. Ecclestone, a former team owner, took control of the sport's commercial rights. He negotiated television deals that brought Formula One into living rooms all around the world. Suddenly, fans from Japan to Brazil could watch the thrilling battles between drivers like Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet. This global exposure created a new generation of international fans and turned the drivers into household names. The intense rivalries of the 1980s and early 90s really fueled this growing popularity. The battle between the passionately instinctual Ayrton Senna and the coolly calculating Alain Prost is perhaps the most famous rivalry in Formula One history. Their on-track clashes and off-track disputes were pure drama, creating compelling television that absolutely captivated audiences. Fans would pick a side, passionately defending their chosen hero. This era of titans, combined with the increasing professionalism and glamour of the sport, elevated Formula One's status. It was no longer just a motor race. It was a high-stakes, high-tech soap opera played out at 200 miles per hour. As the sport's popularity grew, so did its calendar. Bernie Ecclestone pushed to expand Formula One beyond its traditional European heartland. New races were added in Asia, the Middle East, and North and South America. This expansion not only brought the sport to new audiences, but also attracted new sponsors and manufacturers. Car companies like Honda, Renault, and later Mercedes and BMW saw Formula One as a global marketing platform to showcase their engineering prowess. The sport became a traveling circus of immense logistical complexity, shipping tons of equipment and thousands of personnel around the world for each race. The arrival of Michael Schumacher in the mid-1990s launched another era of global dominance that further expanded the sport's reach. Schumacher, driving for Benetton and then Ferrari, won a record 7 world championships. His incredible success, particularly with the iconic Ferrari team, brought Formula One to a new level of mainstream popularity, especially in Germany. He was a relentless competitor who, along with Ferrari, created a dynasty that lasted for years. His era cemented Formula One's status as a premier global sport, watched by hundreds of millions of people and generating billions of dollars in revenue. Modern Formula One is, honestly, a stunning display of cutting-edge technology, elite athleticism, and global entertainment. The cars are engineering marvels, featuring complex hybrid power units that combine a traditional internal combustion engine with advanced energy recovery systems. These are the most efficient engines on the planet, showcasing Formula One's role as a laboratory for automotive innovation. Aerodynamics are more sophisticated than ever, with every surface of the car meticulously sculpted to manage airflow and generate immense downforce. The result is cars that can corner at speeds that seem to, well, defy the laws of physics, subjecting drivers to extreme G-forces. The sport continues to produce superstar drivers who capture the public's imagination. The era after Michael Schumacher was dominated by drivers like Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, and most notably Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton, racing for McLaren and then Mercedes, has broken many of Schumacher's records, including tying his 7 world championships. His rivalry with drivers like Nico Rosberg and Max Verstappen has provided thrilling drama for a new generation of fans. The arrival of young talents like Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris ensures that the grid is packed with skill and personality, promising exciting battles for years to come. In recent years, Formula One has undergone another significant transformation in its approach to fan engagement. Under its new ownership, Liberty Media, the sport has really embraced social media and digital platforms. The documentary series Drive to Survive on Netflix has been a phenomenal success, bringing in a huge new audience, particularly in the United States. The series goes behind the scenes, showcasing the personalities of the drivers and team principals and highlighting the intense pressure and drama of a Grand Prix season. This has made the sport more accessible and relatable than ever before, turning drivers and team bosses into well-known characters. Today, Formula One stands as a truly global sport, balancing its rich history with a forward-looking vision. It faces new challenges such as the push for greater sustainability and environmental responsibility, which is driving innovation in fuels and materials. The calendar continues to expand, with new and exciting venues like Las Vegas and Miami adding to the spectacle. The combination of historic tracks and modern street circuits provides a diverse challenge for the teams. The enduring appeal of Formula One lies in this unique blend of history, human drama, technological warfare, and the pure, primal thrill of seeing the fastest racing cars on Earth pushed to their absolute limit.